Well, welcome to Food Bites. This is pretty great. The person that you're seeing here with me is Kim Loupos from the Middlesex-London Health Unit. Now, Kim, you and I have known one another a lot of years. We're also colleagues from the standpoint that you've been on the board of the food bank for quite some time. How many years do you know? Do you remember?
Almost 10, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, and we've seen so much change in that time. But, I mean, we're so thankful you're there because, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into making a food bank work, but if it's not got the right kind of foods and looking at nutrition, what's the point, right? You're not feeding people the best stuff, and you've really helped us with that, and we can talk a lot about that as we go along. But you're a public health dietitian at the health unit, and you really focus on community health and family health ideas. Is that correct? How would you describe your position?
Describing the position of a public health dietitian is always a bit challenging for folks because when people hear dietitian, they think we're going to have individual sessions with somebody. We're going to talk about food, meal plans, perhaps a specific chronic disease and the nutrition to help support that. But as public health dietitians, we're focused more on the community as a whole, larger community programs, and also policy change and supportive environments to help support the health of everyone, not just the kind of one-to-one services. So I would say at the health unit, my two focuses for the work that I do are food insecurity. So looking at people who don't have access to food primarily due to money, and the longer term solutions that we can look at to help support decreasing the rate of food insecurity, which I've heard you talk about a lot on your show, primarily those income-based measures like increasing social assistance, living wages. And then I also look at in my portfolio food access, which to me is more the short term. So yes, in the long term, people need income. They need adequate incomes to be able to afford housing and to be able to afford enough food for themselves and their families. But they also need food now. So I have a few programs primarily connected to my work with the London Food Bank that help support people now with their needs now.
Yeah. You know, Kim, you're coming to us a decade ago, kind of coincided with the fresh food revolution. Yeah, the perishable food. Back then, I think it was like 27% of the food bank food that we got donated or distributed was just over 25% of it. But now it's up at 56%. That's how much has changed in a decade. Now, a lot of that is due to the people who were pressing us because they understood that's the kind of food we need to give because it's so nutritious. Also, I think there was just a general awareness amongst the media and others. Also, there were food growing measures within the city and also our working with farmers that made that possible. But also, you helped to raise our level of consciousness as a board at the food bank and also as staff about how important that is. But I don't think, though, to be honest with you, that I expected it would take off in the way that it did. Now, I'd like to say that was because of you or that was because of me or whatever it is, but really it's because the public was there. They instinctively understood, and I'm sure the health unit played a part in that, along with a number of other things. But that's what was going on 10 years ago. And now the pandemic came and we all struggled to survive, and now we're out of that, and it seems like the world is a totally different place. For you and your role as to what you're doing, is there more of a challenge now since the COVID pandemic ended, or are there new opportunities? How does it work for you in that kind of setting?
Challenges in terms of programming, challenges in terms of promoting the importance of fresh food.
All of that. Yeah.
So I would say in terms of programming, we've changed a lot in the way that we work with our community partners in a good way with the virtual technology. Before the pandemic, I hadn't used Microsoft Teams, I don't think ever. And now I do so many meetings, the interview today through online technology. So it really allows us to be really efficient with the work that we do with community partners. And everyone is so busy. So being able to hop on a call instead of having the transportation time has made a big difference in terms of the community programming that we do. In terms of fresh food, the pandemic was a particular challenge in that a lot of some of the commercial locations, like the farmers markets where you can access fresh food, were closed during the pandemic. So there wasn't the same amount of access, particularly in the downtown core, for fresh fruits and vegetables. Thankfully, we have come on the other side of that, and our real retailers are all open. But in terms of education to people about promoting fresh food, I don't think what's needed in general is education about the importance of fresh food. I think people know those key nutrition messages.
Yeah.
They've learned them since childhood. It's really about access, which often comes down to money to afford the food.
Yeah, no, and we're hearing that from everywhere these days, so that's pretty clear. You know, Kim, back I think it was in 2012. You know, the food bank was part of the Child and Youth Network that the city had helped to set up. But they did a little pilot project back there, and it's the main reason why I've got you on the show here is because you're going to do so well at explaining this way better than I ever would. They started a little pilot project, and you know it was really around trying to help people get access to good food, and you know it's evolved, but it's called Harvest Bucks. And I've often felt that it's the little jewel in the crown when it comes to supplying food in this community, because most people don't hear of it or know of it. And yet its reach now is pretty vast. And the partnerships that are involved with it is great. And the quality of food is really good. But I wouldn't mind if you could help to take us through it. I'll interrupt every once in a while to ask you the odd question. But back in 2012, it was a pilot program from CYN. And then the food bank came in later. And thanks with the help, especially of you, we've been able to partner more seriously with that. Can you give us the rationale for why it was started and what you have learned from it as it's moved forward?
Sure. I love talking about the Harvest Bucks program. I have been with the Harvest Bucks program and helping to support it since that pilot, and except for some time where I was redeployed during COVID to case and contact management, I've seen the whole history, and how the program started and grown is just an amazing example of a community program. So how the program actually started, I was working at Middlesex-London Health Unit. I had just finished a maternity leave. I'd been working there for about 1 year. And I had a friend who was a dietitian at London Intercommunity Health Centre at the time. And one of the doctors at the health center said that he'd heard about these fruit and vegetable voucher programs that some communities have. Did we have anything like that in Middlesex, London? And she said, I don't know, but my friend's a dietitian at the health unit. If anyone would know, she would be. So we had a conversation, and no, we didn't have a program like that at the time, but I thought that it sounded like a really great idea. So at the time, I had been a member of London's Child and Youth Network for almost a year at that point, sitting on the Ending Poverty Work Group. And I thought it would be a great program to bring forward to London's Child and Youth Network. So I proposed to my manager that I would just bring this as a topic to explore at the next Ending Poverty Work Group, just to see if there were interest in community partners, just to kind of gauge interest and maybe look at a pilot for the following year. I think it was June, perhaps, that I went to the meeting. And when I went to the meeting, the support was so overwhelming from London's Child and Youth Network that they wanted to start a pilot within a few months and to take advantage of the growing season and the harvest time of that fall. The support was unbelievable. It was not what I expected. We quickly had to put boots to the ground and kind of look at the pilot, what it would look like, how would we evaluate it, because since it was a pilot, we wanted to, make sure that we were getting some good data to see if we wanted to continue to change it. And at the time, London's Child and Youth Network funded the pilot completely at $10,000. So we distributed $10,000 of vouchers that were redeemable for fresh fruits and vegetables from, at the time, Western Fair Market, now the market at the Western Fair, as our one location. And we distributed these vouchers through 10 different programs. London Intercommunity Health Centre was one of them, one of the organizations. A dietitian at SOHAC had a program that we
And what is
provided the vouchers
SOHAC?
to. SOHAC is the Southwest Ontario Health Access Centre, Aboriginal Health Access Centre.
That's great. Yeah.
And there were 8 other programs. I think Growing Chefs, I've seen you've had Andrew Fleet on before. Growing Chefs was one of our original 10 organizations that were involved. And we evaluated, we looked at feedback from the participants, from the organizations who were distributing the vouchers through their programming. And we found that the organizations loved the program, the access to fresh fruits and vegetables from the market. The participants loved having the voucher and being able to pick their own fruits and vegetables, having that choice versus having it decided for them. And so it increased access and consumption to fresh fruits and vegetables. And one of the pieces that stands out to me from the pilot, and just probably the biggest piece that I felt in my heart from the pilot, was some feedback that came through participants from the London Intercommunity Health Centre. There were youth who were primarily living on the street. One of their programs, they got Harvest Bucks vouchers through their program, and they said that the program made them feel more connected to the community, more a part of the community, because of being able to go to the farmers market, participate in that community market atmosphere, choose their own fruits and vegetables. There was not, stigma attached to using the vouchers. They were just like any kind of a gift card, just for fruits and vegetables. And the fact that these young people who are so otherwise can be marginalized within the community felt, more a part of the community because of that. It was not an intended outcome of the program, but one we had, perhaps hoped for, and was wonderful to see within the evaluation.
Yeah. And, I want to get into the mechanics of this a bit more as well, because it's so genius. But, around, I think it was a couple years later, was it around 2015 or something like that? You got the food bank involved in the venture. And I remember even at the board level really being intrigued by how it all worked. But then the food bank joined in as just one of the many partners that was there. And I think that helped us a lot. But what do you think it added enough extra capacity to try to get the Harvest Bucks to reach out deeper into the community?
Oh, most definitely. It was, I looked back in my files in preparation for today, and it was 2018 that the food bank came on board as a stronger supporter of the program. And it allowed us to really reach a higher number of people with the program, distribute the vouchers to more families, and distribute more a higher amount of vouchers to each family, because we don't want to just give one person Harvest Bucks, $10 of Harvest Bucks. We want to be able to give them enough to buy some fruits and vegetables for their family and support them over time. And the partnership with the London Food Bank allowed us to do that. I don't know if you remember, but at first we tried distributing the vouchers through the London Food Bank main site itself, which was a lot of extra work for the volunteers. And they were very welcome for the folks who were receiving them. However, we determined that instead of distributing them through the main London Food Bank site, that we would distribute them through our program partners throughout the community, so that people were able to get those vouchers from the community programs that they are working with and seeing on a regular basis versus at the main site. And it really has helped us reach so many more people. And it has also helped the community organizations that we support reach more people. So one of the things that the community programs love about being part of the Harvest Bucks program and having those vouchers to distribute to clients is that community members hear about the program, about the Harvest Bucks program, and they want to know how they can access vouchers. And so they will often come to a community organization like London Intercommunity Health Centre or South London Neighbourhood Resource Centre, asking about the vouchers, and it's a way to start the conversation with some clients who could really use the support of the neighborhood resource centers, but maybe haven't reached out to them before, haven't accessed them. And that Harvest Bucks is that first step that then the organizations can talk to the client and find out what other services they provide, like workplace preparation services, like other basic needs help. And those vouchers are that stepping stone to help the client come through the door.
Yeah. At our last food bank board meeting, I want to get into some of the details later, figures, so on and so forth. But at our last board meeting, Kim, the board passed really enhancing our contribution to that great project even further. But you brought up things to us in the last year about things like called good food boxes, right? And other pop-up markets and things like that. I wonder if you could explain both of those things so the public can understand. And it's important, I think, because the food bank is investing heavily in this venture. And it's in part because that's our job, is to help people to do that. It doesn't have to be done directly at the food bank. We can contribute financially to these other groups that are also trying to do the same thing. And that's definitely true with this one. So let's get started with the good food box. How does that work?
Sure. So if it's okay to back up just for a moment for how the Good Food Box got connected to the program. So in 2020 to 2022, around that time frame, I was redeployed in the health unit to support the COVID community measures, and I was away from my public health dietitian role. When I came back, and I think it was early 2022, I came back having been gone for a couple of years with some fresh eyes to the program, which was very helpful to look at how's the program working, how can we improve things. I've always had an eye to improvement for the program, but I think those couple of years away gave me a really different lens to look at the program. And so one of the first things that I realized was that a number of the community organizations were using the Harvest Bucks vouchers to purchase the London Good Food Box. So the London Good Food Box is a program that's London's Child and Youth Network program that the host organization is Glen Community Resource Centre. And they put together, with support from Turner's Produce, boxes of fruits and vegetables that any community member can order. It's a monthly pickup is at Glen Community Resource Centre. We have, I think, about 20 host organization or 20 location sites within the city where you can pick up these boxes. It's all fresh fruits and vegetables. And because it's a broader community program, you take advantage of buying in bulk. So the boxes now cost $14 for a community member to purchase them, but it has a value of between $18 to $22 of produce because of that bulk buying. And also, actually, the value of the produce in the box is more because of the investment of the Harvest Bucks program. I'm not sure if I mentioned that to the board or not, but when the Harvest Bucks program expanded to include the London Good Food Box, a lot more revenue was going into the London Good Food Box program, and that increased the buying power. So this is one of the things that is really special about the Harvest Bucks program is it started as paper vouchers for fruits and vegetables, but it's much more than that. It's about that community feel of going to farmers markets. It's about the investment of it into the London Good Food Box to make the higher value of the box for everyone. I feel like sometimes, sorry, Glenn, I go off in different tangents because it's quite a big program, and
Yeah.
there are so many pieces to it.
It's
So
exciting. It's exciting. And what about the pop-up markets? Explain those for folks.
So the London Good Food Box piece was added so that instead of people paying for vouchers to get the Good Food Box, they can purchase the Good Food Box. So we buy Good Food Boxes for them, and then they go to pick them up. It's a different piece in that it takes away some of the transportation barriers compared to the vouchers. Then the community pop-up markets were added as a third piece of the program that would be more of a community event and a place where people could, again, pick their own fresh produce. So one of the things that organizations can apply for are pop-up markets where produce is given to the organizations grown by urban roots. So the Harvest Bucks program with the funds from the London Food Bank pay for the produce from urban roots. The organizations pick up the produce from urban roots and then set up a community market at their organization where the produce is given free of charge to the community members. We encourage the organizations to make it part of a community event that helps to draw in community members. Sometimes there's additional food that goes with the produce. Sometimes there are other pieces of entertainment like music and other pieces of information to go with it. But it's all freshly grown organic food from urban roots that community members can attend and receive a bag or a box of the produce. So again, it's fresh fruits and vegetables in a bit different way. It takes away the geographic barrier of having to go to a location to use your vouchers and puts it right within the neighborhood. And this past year, so this was the first time that we funded markets through the Harvest Bucks program, there were over 60 community markets at 8 different locations.
Wow.
And we provided $60,000 of produce from urban roots.
Wow. It's really spreading, right? But it's spreading the right way. It's getting out into neighborhoods, but it's also focusing on fresh, nutritious food, which is great. What happens to harvest bucks that aren't redeemed or utilized?
That's a wonderful question. And another part of the beauty of the Harvest Bucks program, unlike a grocery gift card or any kind of gift card where if it's lost, if it's not redeemed, that's kind of money that's already been spent and it's kind of lost. Harvest Bucks all have an expiry date, end of January of each year, and any vouchers that aren't redeemed, they will expire. And so that unredeemed value is part of the startup of our the money that we have, the funds that we have for our sponsored program for the next year.
So it goes over into the next year.
It does. It rolls over. There's no end. There's no loss.
Well, yeah, I remember when you told us that as a board, we thought, gee, what's not to like about that? That was pretty great. It's also an investment into the next year, which is good. Kim, do you remember, because you're on the board and you're the smart one there instead of me, but do you remember how much the food bank invests towards that a year?
So the food bank over the past couple of years has invested about $200,000 each year. Last year, I believe it was $250,000, and this year it will be $350,000 into the program. So many good food boxes, many markets, many vouchers. It allows the program to really support communities the way they want. I call the Harvest Bucks program kind of like a choose your own adventure for how you would like the support. Organizations apply each year. We're just going through the application process now in February. And organizations can apply for vouchers for their programming. They can apply for good food boxes, and they can also apply for pop-up markets. Each of these pieces is a little bit different, serves the clients in different ways depending on their needs, and they can apply for one or all, whatever best suits their needs. And then they're able to provide that support at the community, at the neighborhood level to their community members.
Kim, this is so important because I think, when people often think that the food bank just distributes at the food bank on Leithorn Street, and we don't, right? We're involved in depots around the city. We have mobile trucks that go out and pass it out. We help lots of different agencies, including homeless agencies, and we also help to fund some of the food programs that those different groups use. So it's really important, I think, and I'm really glad you explained it in the way you did. This is a capacity that is something we didn't have a decade ago, right? And it's reaching right down at the granular level to where people can get this food, and it's really good food. It's local food, which is also really great. But the whole reason why it's possible is because people donate to the food bank in such generous ways that it allows us to support those efforts. It's not just individual donors, it's faith groups, it's businesses through Business Cares, the Chamber of Commerce, or whatever. All of these different groups are coming in, but their funds that they give are being leveraged in this way that offers so much diversity and fresh stuff. Like, it really is fascinating compared to the early days of food banks, where it really was just a supply and demand model, and everybody came into a central place and you tried to help. I mean, you have really helped us in our partnership with the health unit to take this and start a whole new chapter when it comes to food equity, food distribution, and accessibility. It's really great, and I would have to say honestly, because I've been there and I've seen you in action at the board meetings and others, but you have made all of that possible for us, and we really appreciate it, Kim. I hope you feel that.
I do, and I appreciate so much the food bank's support of the Harvest Bucks program. It takes the donations that we receive from the generous community members and just stretches it so far in so many different ways, and just has so many different pieces that it impacts. So going back to the pop-up markets, that we pre-purchase a large amount of produce from Urban Roots. Even prior to the growing season, we give them the first half of the payment so that they can have those funds to set up their growing season and to pay for those expenses they have earlier on before they have time to be able to sell it to other businesses. They have expenses, but they don't necessarily have the produce to be selling at that point. As well, the produce that we buy for the Harvest Bucks program from Urban Roots, we pay market value for that produce. Urban Roots has a very special relationships with some community organizations where they pay less than market value for that produce to help support their organizations. But we, as the Harvest Bucks program, as the Harvest Bucks Steering Committee, we wanted to pay that full market value, utilizing the funds we receive from the food bank, so that other community programs, they have produce that they can sell at lower market value, and they know that they have that guaranteed amount from us. It connects to so many different pieces that you wouldn't necessarily think when you first start thinking about the program.
Yeah. I guess, Kim, when people think about the Middlesex-London Health Unit, they might not be fully sure what it is, but I know lots of folks that think it's just a kind of a government agency that gets government funding to go out and try to provide these health protections and standards and other things. But what you're introducing us to us today about the health unit, it's really this kind of organizer. It's this group that's able to draw different groups together. It's not with all of the funding coming from the health unit or anything like that. You're leveraging your own influence to a degree in which you've got more buy-in now in this community around food than it's probably ever had. And the health unit is central to that. And you've helped us as a food bank to move in that direction as well. So I think, Kim, you are a real community treasure that way. And of course, the problem is most people just will not know about it. And but you're there just quietly working away. I don't know how you handled yourself through the pandemic. It wasn't easy for anybody. But you've come out of this with a flourish, right? With all of this new kind of development and this new kind of investment with groups like Urban Roots, the Food Bank, and others. And it gives the health unit, I think, that really granular look that it's way deeper into the community than people realize. And maybe we can have another talk one of these days about that very thing, because I think the health unit is now doing amazing things despite the limitations of funding and other things that it has. It's still leveraging this community, making it operate in ways that it never would have before. We really